Welcome to the Alaskan Journey podcast. My name is Jamin Goecker, and I'm an associate real estate broker in Alaska. But more importantly, I am your first friend in Alaska, and the purpose of this podcast is to talk about the good, bad, the ugly, and everything in between about what it's like living up here in Alaska. And today I'm very lucky to be joined by Andra, and she is going to be talking about her experience of living up here in Alaska and, kind of just shining some light on what it's like actually living up here. So thank you very much for joining us, Andra.
Well, thank you for asking me to be here.
Absolutely. So let's go ahead and just jump into this then. How long have you lived up here in Alaska?
Well, I was born here, so it's been as long as I'm as old as I am.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So were you in South Central Alaska the whole time, or what? Where all have you been?
Well, I was born at Humana Hospital. You may not have heard of that, but if you have, that's what is now known as a regional hospital. So I was born at Humana Hospital, and my parents lived in Anchorage at the time. Shortly thereafter, we moved to Chooiak, and we did grow up here in South Central. And then in 1990, we bought a lodge on the Denali Highway, and I grew up in the bush in the summers. So I spent a lot of time there and in Chooiak.
No way. Like what lodge did you guys buy?
We bought Tangle Lakes Lodge. It's on the Denali Highway. It's at mile 22. Every time we talk about it, most of the people that I say that to have been to on the highway, at the very least, and they've seen the highway or the lodge from the highway. But Tangle Lakes Lodge is the lodge. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. I know that is like a completely different lifestyle because I was actually looking at buying a lodge for a little bit myself, but I mean, luckily I talked to one of my friends who's also a YouTuber. He runs a lodge, and he was like, okay. It's not a quick little investment Airbnb thing. It's a complete lifestyle change. So, what do you think about the lodge life?
I couldn't agree more with that. It is a completely different way of living. It's endless work. I would say it's a 24-hour work cycle because, you go to bed thinking about what you have to do the next day. You wake up and you immediately start on things that are broken, fixed. It's customer service. There's lots of people. Lots of reservations. I mean, it's pretty much it's definitely a business of its own. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, I mean, it's customer service, but then also you're in like a restaurant or something like that. Like you get burned with someone, it's like you can just kind of walk away within 30 minutes. But with a lodge, I mean, you're kind of stuck with them for a couple of days. So
yes, for sure. Yeah, we definitely had, we had 10 cabins, and we had people stay. I mean, we had people there for a duration, and it was a little bit like, making them happy for 3 days. It's a hospitality. And everybody comes there for a different purpose. Most of the people are there to see the highway, to see something very Alaskan, and we definitely tried to give them that experience. But yeah.
And that's awesome. So, okay, so did the whole lodge thing, and would you say you liked it, didn't like it?
I have really great memories of it. I really do. I have really great memories. There's, hard days where, because I was a kid and I was the waitress, I was the hostess, I cleaned cabins. Mm-hmm. I mean, I did all the chores. And, as a kid, I did have a lot of interactions with adults. I didn't have as many interactions with kids. And that's probably one of the negatives of it, was some days were harder because of that. But, by and large, I really do have good memories of it. It's a lot of fun. I felt like I was always accomplishing something,
Yeah. And what was that like going from, primarily interacting with adults in kind of the lodge setting and then going to like high school back in Chooiak? Like did you feel like you were, I don't know, like a fifth grader in like first grade or something at that point with all the kids?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, I think I still maintained my, my youth. I definitely really enjoyed being up there. It was 3 months of just really hard work, and I made a lot of money in tips, and I was very excited about that. But I did a lot of jobs. I mean, I started when I was 13 as a waitress. I remember my very first customer. She gave me a bunch of coins and a tip, and she was a bicyclist. And I was like, if this is what is going to happen, I make her pancakes, and she puts money on the table for me. I can do this. Like, I was very excited by that. And I did go back to school and talk about it with friends and showed them my tip money and, spent that money on very silly things as a kid. But yeah, no, I think I maintained my youth.
Oh, outstanding. So, okay, so you came up here, lived in Chooiak for a little bit. A little bit.
My whole life until I was 18.
Life, yeah, until you were 18, yeah. And like, what was it like growing up in Chooiak?
Very nice and quiet. Yeah, very, Very, very rural. I mean, we didn't have any. The nearest store was 1.5 miles, so we would ride our bikes up to the store and buy candy bars and ride back home. But very quiet. I had a few friends up there. I mean, I had quite a few friends in my neighborhood. I think it would be a good place to be right now with kids. But Chooiak was great.
Outstanding. Now, one thing I do find interesting, a lot of people that I talk to, like they grow up in Alaska and then they end up moving out of Alaska in pretty short order. But did you stay here the whole time, or did you have like the striking out, moving somewhere else phase?
Yeah, no,
yourself?
my dad got us up. My dad got here to Alaska and never planned on leaving. Excuse me. And then when we started growing up, I do remember them talking about moving. I remember probably around the time that we bought the lodge, I think there might have been some discussions about either moving or doing something fantastic like buying the lodge. And so I think that's what ended up happening is we did not move to Idaho Falls like my dad talked about.
Like where's Idaho Falls? I'm assuming Idaho. Like
Idaho.
Okay.
Yes, Idaho.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's probably a question that I probably had in my head. Idaho Falls, where's that? How did you pick that? But we didn't do it and stayed in Alaska, and then we were locked in. I mean, you make a commitment like that. We pretty much locked right into it. And as an adult, after I was 18, I do remember talking about trying to pack up and move to Hawaii, but I didn't know anybody there, so that never materialized. And I just stayed here myself. It's where all my family is mostly, or was. Since then, things have changed, but that's just how I just stayed here. So we do think about moving now because of the weather, because we're just so unhappy with these cold summers. But we are talking about it again. But we'll probably not leave for a while. Years.
Got it. So you guys really aren't winter activity people?
We are, yeah. I mean, you kind of have to be. I have said that my whole life. If you're going to live in Alaska, you better find something you like to do in the winter because it's a long stretch, and you might not be happy if you can't do that. So. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the thing I try to explain to people is it's like you've got the holidays you look forward to. I mean, which some are Alaska and the Christmas time, like that's a great place to be. It feels really cozy.
Sure.
Everyone's got that holiday they're looking forward to. And then after that, you've got New Year's, which, it's kind of hard to follow Christmas. So it's like, whatever. But then after that, you've got a long 5-month stretch till you get to the summertime.
It's really true.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like this last winter, we didn't have a lot of snow. And in the past, I've seen a couple winters where we don't have snow, and it really does feel like almost kind of being held prisoner a little bit because there's no snow. And so all those fun activities that you want to do, you can't do. I mean, even the Iditarod is threatened by it because they move their location if there's a lack of snow.
Yeah. Well, I was looking at kind of sort of running the Iditarod. Mm-hmm. Like I was going to hike the Iditarod.
Okay.
Like this past year, but family said something, blah blah, afraid of you dying out in the wilderness, blah blah. So it's like, okay, we've got enough going on. I don't need to add that stress on top of it. But in my research, though, I did find out there's like a solid 50, 100-mile stretch where it's just nothing but rocks this year on the trail. So it's too much.
Yeah.
So were there winters like the past winter that you can remember? Because I certainly don't remember.
Yeah, we had a stretch about 10 years ago, maybe 12 years ago. It was, I equate it to when Bill Walker was governor, because those were some winters where we had 3 winters in a row where there wasn't any snow. It was really bizarre. Like you get all the way to Christmas and not even see snow. There was a couple winters right back to back like this. And so for me, it does feel very cyclical. Now, before that, I don't remember so much, but I remember before then there was just really solid snow in winters endlessly. Like you couldn't avoid it.
Right. Have you found yourself so I know for a lot of people it's the cold during the wintertime and the snow, that's really what people focus on, but I found really it's the darkness and how people handle and interact with the darkness that really does kind of make or break a lot of people.
Sure.
Is that are you just a little creature of the darkness and it just doesn't bug you at all? Or is that something?
It doesn't bug me. It's so funny. I'm not a creature of the darkness. I think I probably have just really gotten, I was born here. So it doesn't feel weird to me. I definitely love it when, you're kind of going along and you realize, oh, it's 9:00 and I can see out the window. I do like that. I feel like, oh, I'm waking up again. But it doesn't bother me. The darkness doesn't bother me as much. I think it's novel in a way, and when you talk about it to other people, they're like, so everybody loves to hear it. And I just say it's a flip-flop. We just flip-flop gaining light and losing light, and people are very amazed by it.
It's like if you took like the average, I'm sure on average we get the same sunlight everyone else does. It's just our averages are just so like all or nothing.
Yes. Yeah. It's great. I definitely don't mind it overall.
Yeah. Does it feel weird when you go to other places and like the sun's down at like 9 or 8:30?
6 or like 6 p.m. Yeah. I almost said it. I think it's interesting when I go somewhere else and I'm like, oh, it's 6 o'clock in the summertime and dark? That's lame. I can't go for my 7 o'clock hike I was planning on doing. You've got to change your plans.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm thinking back and like thinking about all the adventures I like would go on and all that. It's like they totally wanted to have worked like what I did if the sun hadn't been out till midnight. Like,
I know. People are like out hiking at 10 o'clock at night. You can be on any trail. There's people.
Yeah. So that's, that is definitely one of the big perks here. Well, unless you're trying to sleep, but such is life. Yeah. Oh, that's another question. Do you conversely struggle with sleeping during the summertime? Okay.
I don't have any issues.
Yeah. Again, born here.
Yeah. Some mornings I wake up and the sunlight is streaming in through the window and I'm like, oh, that's kind of annoying. But, just if the curtains aren't closed and it just peeps through that little crack, that's about it. But nope, I'm fine.
That's about it. So what activities do you guys like doing here? Because everyone, like, talk to any Alaskan, most of them will have like some hobbies like locked and loaded that they, all else fails, they're going to go do that over the weekend. So for you guys, what is it for you?
Well, since we have the kids, we're definitely trying to get our kids out and learn all the Alaskan things. So my husband and my son have really gotten into all phases of fishing. My son is a big fisher. He just talks about I think he might be the biggest fishing enthusiast I have ever met, is my 7-year-old son. It's amazing. If he can put a fishing pole in the water, he's happy. So he likes to catch stuff, but he will do it even though there's, the obvious threat of not catching anything. So we definitely try to find ways to fish. My husband has really supported that and gotten all of the Alaska ice fishing gear that you can possibly imagine, the tent, the heaters, and I do not like ice fishing. I am like, I'll tell you the story. My mom and I were because we always had Jeeps, and we were in one of her Jeeps driving on the ice, and I swear to this day, I was 7 and I heard the ice crack, and to this day, I'm not a big fan of ice fishing. I do not trust that ice is 2 feet thick and I'm not going to fall through. I just hate it. I just hate it so much. But they don't mind it. They're not afraid. And so they go. And once in a while, I try to join for ice fishing. But it's a short visit.
Walking very, very tenderly out there.
Yeah. I don't know why I'm so nervous about it. I'm actually getting nervous just sitting here talking about ice fishing. But aside from that, we do a lot of motor works. My husband really likes, the kids both have all these motorized and electric bikes, and we have a 4-wheeler for the kids. It's very slow, but my husband just built a track on our lower property. We have an acre and a half, and part of the lower property, there's a circular track. The kids go down there with their helmets and ride around in circles for a very long time. It's very fun. And my husband's a bicycling enthusiast, so the kids have a lot of different types of bikes. Those are the things that we do as a family, but we all have our own little hobbies that we all like to do as well.
Right. So where did you guys end up settling down, and what made you decide to kind of pick that area?
Well, we lived in Anchorage. My husband and I met in Anchorage, and he was living in his house that he had bought in his previous marriage. And he had a dog, and I had a dog, and we got together and moved in together in that house and got married, had our children in that house, and lived there, and just decided that our split-level house in Midtown with, kind of the nearby crime areas, we just didn't like it. I just hated it, really, and felt very unsafe, which is sad because it was a really nice place, and I grew lots of really good vegetables in the backyard because it was hot. But we were going to go to South Anchorage. We were going to move out to South Anchorage. We really wanted to be out there, but it's really expensive and really hard to find as much land as we wanted. And we ended up in Eagle River. We weren't even trying to live in Eagle River, but we bought during COVID. when
geez. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was,
it was horrible. We had a 93-day closing.
wow, that's,
It was a nightmare.
yeah. I mean, yeah, like even for like up here in Alaska, for those of you who don't know, it's about 45, 60 days average to close, but 90 is
93. Yeah. We ended up moving into the house and doing, I forget what the term is. You can help me out with that. It's when you
early occupancy.
Yes,
Yeah.
we did early occupancy and paid rent to live in our house while we were buying it because it just took so long and all of our stuff was in storage and we were kind of miserable. So we did that. But like I said, we weren't even looking in Eagle River. We got our heart broken in about 3 days in a row. We kept trying to go find a house to go look at and it would pend. But the minute we found it online, we got so frustrated by that. And so we kind of just threw our hands up in the air and said, we're not going to buy a house this year, maybe next year. Excuse me. And then all of a sudden on Monday morning, I get this notification that there's this house in Eagle River it really checked off a lot of our boxes. I mean, it really did. It had, a sizable amount of property, was well within our price range, and we jumped on it. And by seeing it at 10:30 in the morning, we had our offer in by 1:30 in the afternoon. That's how fast we scrambled to put our offer in on that house. And by 9 o'clock the next morning, we had the owners said that they accepted our offer. So we were overjoyed, and I was really excited to get out of that house and into the new one. So
Yeah, and so Eagle River really wasn't on the radar before, but
not really.
Yeah. So for you, what were the pros and cons now of being in Eagle River?
Well, I didn't want to commute because
Right.
ideally my husband and I would have really actually preferred to be in the valley with lots of land. And then houses were still not crazy, but now I think of a valley house is just as expensive as an acreage house. So so being in Eagle River, there's a slight commute, which I find not too bad. I can get to my house, and from my house to school, the kids' school or my office, I can get there in about 20, 25 minutes. So that's not too bad. The con is we still don't have quite as much property as we'd really like. Ideally, we'd like a minimum of 5 acres, but we do pretty well on an acre and a half. We do all of our hobbies. We have a lot of fun. We have a lot of things out there that we like to use, and we can put them away and all that. But as far as the cons, there really aren't many other cons. We live on the mountainside. I wouldn't mind a little bit more sun, but it's great overall. I love the community. Our neighbors are amazing. We really do have great neighbors.
Yeah, I'm assuming that view's got to be incredible up there too.
We did get a nice view. It's a funny story, actually. During that early occupancy, I hope nobody gets mad at me, but this is 5 years ago now. You're not allowed to do anything at the house because technically you don't own it.
Yeah, you're a renter.
You're a renter. And we weren't allowed to cut down trees or paint the yellow walls. But we painted the yellow walls and we cut down some trees. And when we started cutting down trees, we realized we had an amazing view and really more than we ever thought that we were going to have. And so we cut down my husband went out there in the woods in the snow in December with his gear on and cut down 6 big old trees, and our view just kind of started to open up. And then we had a really nice. It was really nice. We really looked forward to cutting down more of them as soon as we could.
It's that makes me laugh. You just couldn't wait till spring. It's no, cut them
in the snow. Yeah,
in the snow.
He was out there, and it's like a hillside right below our house there, and he was out there cutting down trees, happy to do it.
Oh, that's awesome. So for you guys, what's kind of been your experience with raising kids in Alaska? Because I know that's a concern a lot of my listeners and viewers might have of, what is it like raising a family up in Alaska? Some people have this really idyllic house on the prairie kind of vision in mind, and other people, you would think you're taking your kids to a ghetto or something.
Oh, okay.
So the expectations are all across the board. So for you, what would you say it's been like?
I mean, it's really hard to say anything different because as a person who was raised here, I don't know anything different, So all I know is this Alaskan lifestyle. I mean, I grew up with hunting dogs and falconry and, gutting caribou since I was a kid and making pancakes with blueberries that I picked myself. I mean, I was raised that way. And so, I mean, I would say that it's all that. It's all that Alaskan dreamy stuff that you can imagine, the Northern Lights, all that dreamy stuff, plus a lot of hard work. I mean, it's a lot of hard work. If you're going to be here, you probably should come with a job that pays well. You should get a job that pays well here, and because it's hard. I mean, it's not easy in a lot of ways, but it is kind of easy too because we have good public schools. We have a lot of activities. If you can figure out an activity that you like and do it, there's a community waiting to welcome you to it. I don't think that any of the stuff that we do, we always meet really cool people, everything that we do,
Right.
So a lot of good community, I think, here,
Yep, absolutely. So glad you kind of mentioned the schools. So what's kind of been your experience with the schools here in the area? Because, yeah, I know that
I'm probably very opinionated on this. We don't use any public schools.
Okay.
So now in Eagle River, that's different. Here in Eagle River, I feel like the Anchorage School District schools are really run by people. I don't know why, but everybody always says the Eagle River schools are better than the Anchorage schools. I believe that to be true. I don't believe that to be true for very much longer. They still are governed by the Anchorage School District, and the Anchorage School District is a mess. The school board's a mess. The superintendent's weird, strange, makes choices I don't agree with. And we can't get anybody on the board that can do changes that I think are reasonable. Like Jarrett, I think is his name. He's making some, like building the Inlet View School downtown in Anchorage, but not, and then closing other schools. It doesn't make any sense to me. There's a lot of really, choices like that. And of course, all the other political stuff that's mixed in there. I don't want to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's kind of a mess right now. Like I had someone who went to the school board meeting a little bit ago, and I was talking with him about it, and he was like, the Jarrett guy.
Yep.
He was trying to make like this big speech of, well, when everything hits the fan, I'm the guy that you're going to want to talk to. But as he was saying that, okay, first off, he's got coffee. He has a straw with the coffee. And like as he's saying this, he's like trying to
sip his coffee,
sip it, but he didn't find the straw. So
there's a really good Andrew Dice Clay. Have you ever listened to Andrew Dice Clay? He does a really funny story about how you cannot look cool holding a straw, and he kind of does this funny thing. I can picture that. I can just picture that.
It's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you're not that guy.
You're not that guy.
You're not that guy.
You're not that guy.
You're gonna be drinking anything. It needs to be like, I don't know, a shot of whiskey or something like that, and then. But I don't think you can.
Or just
pull
some
it
black
off.
coffee. Yeah.
Yeah, just some black coffee.
Some diner coffee that he thinks tastes really good.
Ugh, yeah, jeez.
Well, yeah, that's been my experience. Is that is a person that makes choices that do not benefit the public or our children in general.
Yeah, and for you, what would you say some of those choices are?
Well, I mentioned the one, the building schools and closing schools. That's a weird space to be in. And as far as, kind of the whole, I don't know how far to go with this, but there's just been a lot of the story that really sticks out in my mind is the one teacher that, I forget it, I can't remember his name, but basically was wearing clothing that was too tight and the children were offended by it. And, he had to leave the school or something. There was just a lot of news about that, and I feel like he was supported in that, and the children weren't. And that's kind of my concern is that, my kids will see stuff like that, and that's not something that children should be worrying about in school. They should be going there to learn how to read and write. I'm really focused right now on how hard it has been to teach one of my children to read. I think some kids just pick stuff up sooner than others, and I've had to go in and spend extra time as a parent, even though I have a business, helping my child spell. And I'm a good speller. It comes really naturally to me. And so that's been tough to have to try to figure out how to teach somebody something that comes naturally to me. And, I just think that should be the focus is, those are the services and the things that our kids need is really to learn how to get a good education. And the other stuff is parental rights. Those are things that we should be talking to our kids about.
Right.
And I don't feel like the school district wants us to do that. I feel like they want us to not be a part of decisions that kids want to make with strangers. I don't agree with that at all. They're my children, and I will raise them, and it's not your job to interfere like that.
Right.
So those are some of my feelings. I'm being very honest, but I could go a lot deeper, and then we'd have to cancel the interview.
It's like you just get the static. It's like, well, we'll cut to commercial.
Yeah. Well, yes.
But no, that's, it's not stuff I haven't heard before. It's stuff I have heard before. So.
It's okay. It's okay that people are different. I like that. I would be bored. I like different people, but it's not anybody's job to go and put that in my child's face before I do. It's my job as a parent. And I don't care that people are different. I like that. I celebrate it. I have no problem with that. But it just shouldn't be discussed so much. The pressure shouldn't be so heavy. It shouldn't be so prevalent. Education should be.
Right.
And safety.
Right. Yeah. So you mentioned having a business. So what business do you run?
I'm an insurance agent for Country Financial. I have an office on Muldoon.
Oh, very nice. And how long have you been in insurance? And yeah, let's start with that.
Yeah.
How long have you been in insurance?
Yeah, I started that in when right after my son was born. Or actually, during my pregnancy, I sold a business and started in insurance and finance, and that was in, it's hard to remember, 2018, because my son was born in 2017, and so I started interviewing in February of 2018.
Gotcha. And I'm assuming been in it for a little bit. You do enjoy it, I would assume.
Yeah, I do. All of my careers, I've been able to spend time with people, getting to know people and helping people. And this is just another one of those things that helps me do that.
Outstanding. And how would you say insurance is any different in Alaska as opposed to lower 48, or is insurance just the same across the board?
That's a really great question. As a person who's never lived anywhere else, I really wouldn't know. I do know that some of the differences between Alaska and some of the other states is that, like, for instance, my husband is from Florida, and he tells me that in Florida, it's a no-fault state. So they don't assign fault to claims and things, and so it's different. So I assume that there are going to be differences state to state. I do know that, I hold licenses in many other states, and even just getting your license in another state can be different based on the cost and some of the requirements it takes to get a license. So I have to imagine there are going to be minutia that are different, but overall, having coverage is going to be very much the same.
Right. All right. Well, that's glad to hear. Good to hear that. How expensive would you say insurance is in Alaska as opposed to somewhere else? Because I know, like Florida, it's like a solid $300-$500+ a month just for basic like home insurance.
And you said that for which state?
Florida.
Florida. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, you've got your storm states, Texas to Florida. Country doesn't even do insurance in.
Oh, wow. Really? Okay.
Yep. Too risky. So we pick, Country has 19 states that we do insurance in. I'm licensed, I think, in about 10 of them. In Alaska, I know that we do have higher rates. And it's also not just Alaska in general. It's where in Alaska you are. So, for instance, I have a client who was kind of whining a little bit about her auto rates, and I get it because they go up and up and up, and I don't blame her at all. I say whining because I whine. I'm a whiner. But she was complaining to me one day about how her auto rates had gone up, and I said, well, she goes, and I live in Glen Ellen a lot, and I'm in Anchorage, just not as much. And I heard that, and I thought, you're in Glen Ellen. Well, let's garage your car. There's a term called garaging your car. And I said, well, let's garage your car in Glen Ellen. And we moved her auto policy essentially from Anchorage to Wessela. It went down $200 for her 6-month renewal.
Oh, wow.
So Anchorage is an expensive place to have auto insurance in some cases. Now, Country Financial has some of the best rates for home. You really cannot do better than getting a home policy with Country Financial. We're very, very competitive. And our claims adjusters are amazing. They say yes. They love to say yes to claims. We just are not always as competitive with our auto. We just aren't. There's been a lot of crime, since that period of time we talked about earlier with the snowfall. We have had snow problems, snow removal issues in the winters, and that causes issues. That causes accidents. Our company has noticed that. There's a lot of crime. A lot of petty crime is allowed to continue in this state, unfortunately. So break-ins and theft of cars is common. So our company has decided that it's a little bit more expensive to have an auto policy here. And so we don't always tend to be as competitive. Now, that's not always true. I have found myself beating rates for other companies. I'm very excited when I do. But overall, I would say that we're very, very competitive on home, but not always as much on auto.
Right.
Business, actually, is another one that we do that we're very competitive on. Business insurance, we tend to be very competitive.
Outstanding. So I guess if you have anyone looking at relocating up here to Alaska, we'll go ahead and put the link to your website so people can get in touch with you if they want to talk shop about insurance up in Alaska, because it's going to be a little bit different. I hadn't even thought that like the different parts of Alaska would have different rates,
Absolutely.
but it does make sense. And recently I found out that with investment properties, specifically fourplexes, technically those are considered commercial in the insurance realm, but for the sake of financing, they're considered still residential.
Right.
So I guess for investors, just kind of understanding that distinction. And I mean, that's stuff you're just going to have to talk with an actual agent about to hear more about.
Yeah, if you're looking at buying a fourplex and getting insurance, it's getting harder. It's getting harder. You know, much like the storm states, storms became a problem for insurance companies. Now, since COVID, it's rental properties. So they're reviewing rental properties in the same fashion that they did with storm states and storm issues. And so some companies will not use that market. They just will choose not to do it. And so because of COVID, everybody has turned their basement into a rental property. And so now there's an increase in passive income issues like that. People want to be getting passive income. Now there's more rentals, and it's a higher risk.
Yeah, I mean, it's especially because here's the issue you have with specifically fourplexes and like those duplexes, triplexes. A lot of first-time home buyers, they just don't have the experience yet to recognize that, okay, this property's got a very high ROI, and it's going to be a nightmare to deal with. The tenants aren't going to be on time on anything. They're going to be destructive. Just the neighborhood itself is going to be a problem long term, and they just don't recognize that. They just see like the high ROI. And now, because, I mean, there's a lot of destruction to those properties and a lot of damage, then, you know, insurance gets drawn upon more and more to take care of stuff like that, which increases the rates for everyone else. Because I've got a fourplex, and we're keep pretty quiet to ourselves over there. Like, I was thinking about it the other day. It's like, man, we've got like 4 or 5 animals living in this building. I never hear a single one of them.
Oh, that's great.
And I mean, just very put together. Like, I sock enough money away to make sure if anything happens, we can get it fixed like the next day, kind of stuff.
Great.
But like our rates are going up because the high risk fourplexes and investment properties are kind of dragging everybody else down.
Yeah. Well, you bring up a couple really good points. One, if everything is going up, of course, insurance has to go up. So there is that. And yes, it is nobody's fault in that situation. And then there are the situations where it is someone else's fault. It is because of claims. Overall, if claims go up, insurance companies have to go, well, maybe it's more expensive to have our company in this area, and we do need to raise the rate there. And so it's not just for certain people, it's an across-the-board increase.
Yeah.
But and new people that come into ownership of rental properties are not as on track as they could be, and they have DIY for their whole mindset, and that includes the management of the property itself. And I can't say enough about rental management. Having a rental property do that stuff for you is because the eviction process itself is challenging, and I learned that during COVID how hard it is to evict somebody, a bad tenant. The laws are not in favor always of the landlord.
Yeah. They decide they're just going to burrow in like a tick. It's kind of hard to get them out of there. Now, luckily for like a lot of landlords, I don't manage property for other people. I do manage my own stuff, and I'm a broker.
You're in the industry.
In the industry, I've got people I can ask if I have like pretty niche questions about. But for me, I haven't had to evict anyone, and it's just because we're just so on top of like screening everybody. And
I think that's a really great way to go. And I would say you probably are doing the right thing, and most people probably aren't doing that, and they could do that more. But you also cannot control what happens in those other 3 places because stuff still happens, and anybody can get I hate to say this, but anybody can get addicted to drugs. Anybody can become a bad tenant, and it's. I feel like rental property is a gamble. My husband wants to get into it, and I keep the pushback. I keep pushing back because I'm like, I don't have as much interest in that, and so those are my fears.
Yeah, well, I will say if you get a really good quality property, that tends to attract the really good quality tenants. They're going to take care of it, and because I've had some tenants
and charge accordingly.
Yeah, and I've had tenants before where it's like, dude, this person's better being a tenant than I am at being a landlord. I need to step my game up.
Oh, good, yeah.
So that's There
you go. Well,
so it can work, but I definitely understand because you hear all the stories, and there's definitely a lot that can go wrong. And man, I hadn't thought about that, but I guess working in insurance, you've probably seen everything go wrong before. So,
I have seen some stuff. Yeah, I think every industry has their setbacks, and I always think anybody. I mean, you can be a good tenant for a long time, and then you can lose a job, and things can go really south really fast.
Right.
Especially in our economy, where if you have a good paying job and you're used to living that lifestyle, and then that job is lost for whatever reason, the fallback is really challenging for people to try to find something else that pays that well.
Right. All right. Well,
yeah. Pitfall. Sorry.
Yeah.
Bringing up the pitfalls. There's a pitfall for every industry.
That is very true. I guess moving on to kind of Alaska in general again here. What would you say, just kind of in closing here, what would you say are some of the pros and the cons of living in Alaska?
Yeah. I think the pros are that people are really fun to get to know here. I mean, I feel like that's the case. I feel like we're very friendly people. I think the cons are, of course, the long winters, lots of snow. The changing political community is changing a lot. I don't know if that bothers you. It's hard for me. But if you're an active person and you are versatile, you will do fine in Alaska. If you want to be out in the weather and you're not doing anything super risky in a bad way, I think you're going to be just fine. Wear the right gear. Maybe carry a beacon with you. Whatever you're doing, just make sure you're protected and, your family's protected. It's a big wildlife is what they say here. And there are lots of ways to have fun and there's lots of ways to get in trouble.
Yep, that's very true.
Yep, wear the right gear.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Andra, thank you very much for joining us and kind of sharing your perspective about what it's like living up here in Alaska. Like I said, we'll go ahead and put the link for your website down in our down in the description section below on this video. And so if anyone has insurance questions, they'll reach out to you.
Well, thanks for having me.
Hey, well, my pleasure. Everyone else, again, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.